Time then to look at the Nations League games and more from World European Football with Andy Brassell. Good afternoon, Andy.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Not so bad, thank you. A couple of corkers tonight. We've got Germany versus the Netherlands, Belgium v France. Maybe we'll kick off with Belgium versus France. Yes, they're a couple of mouth-watering games.
Yeah, they are. And I think with Belgium, the biggest talk is about the two guys who aren't there. Because you look at Belgium, of course, going into this and the next international window in November without Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, he was at his grouchiest when they lost to France in Lyon last month, when he complained about their attitude and the application, both on the pitch and at the cameras afterwards of some of his teammates. Now he's been given a little rest and he's going to come back in the new year, which is maybe the best thing. Now, how Belgium have handled that is slightly different to how France have dealt with Kylian Mbappe not being there, of course. Now, slightly different because he'll only be absent from this international window, not the next one in November, as far as we know. But ever since we were told that he would be left out of this one so he could get used to Real Madrid for his physical and mental well-being. He played twice for Real Madrid straight after that, which obviously upset people in France because he is the captain. He was spotted on a night out in Stockholm with his mates when France were playing away and winning away in Budapest against Israel on Thursday. Now, look, Matteo Guendouzi stood up for him in a press conference because all the France players have been asked about it. They've not been asked about anything else, really, over the recent days. And Guendouzi said, well, look, it's his spare time. He can do what he wants. And on paper, he's right. But realistically, he's the captain of France and he knows people are talking about it. He's someone who's aware of the weight of every word and every action that he makes. And he's not oblivious to this. I think it's really, really unwise, and it's set a lot of people against him. You know, I think if you look at public opinion polls in France, his popularity is really gone through the floor in the last couple of months, and maybe he doesn't care about that. But as the captain of his country, he probably should.
The big players' attitude to these games, there was questioning of the England players. I mean, how do big players approach this Nations League? Do they take it seriously, or is it a bit of an inconvenience?
It is an inconvenience. I think it was such a great idea when it was introduced. But it's a case of last in, first out, I suppose, really, Andy, because it looked like a great way of getting rid of international friendlies that no one really wanted. But the fact is that the game is very club focused, and it's felt that by a lot of players that, you know, this is a pain. They'd rather be having a rest at this point now. I mean, Aurelien Tchouameni, who is the Real Madrid teammate of Kylian Mbappe, of course, who's been appointed as captain in his absence, he was there in the press conference yesterday saying, yeah, well, you know, it's not the World Cup, is it? It's not the Euros. And I think people did feel, and players...
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is true. It is true. And that would take generations to change, really, wouldn't it? And I think when it first started, I went to some of the early Nations League games, and you think of the one between England and Croatia at Wembley, where England had to come from behind to win and get into the Final Four. There was real jeopardy. The players were into it. The crowds were into it. And then COVID changed everything. You know, there was football every day. And now there is a feeling, I think probably from both fans and players, that we need a breather at some point.
No Romelu Lukaku he's been doing okay, hasn't he, at Napoli, but not in the frame tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Another one who's having a rest. And, you know, the calendar is just demanding this, really. I mean, I think we can sit here and snootily say, oh, well, you know, players just pick and choose. They do what they want. They're highly paid and highly strung. But I don't think that's really fair. I think, you know, you feel a lot of supporters feel this as well, feel that this international break has come at a time when no one's massively infused about it, really. So Lukaku, who of course didn't really have a pre-season because his move from Chelsea to Napoli was delayed. For him to spend a bit of time back in Naples, to have a bit of a rest and to work more closely with Antonio Conte, who's already getting the best out of him, is probably the best thing. But what we've seen in recent days as well, with Belgium coming from behind on Friday to draw 2-2, they were 2-0 down in Italy and drew 2-2 in the end, and they could have won the game. You're looking at younger players coming through. There's 4 debutants in the squad. Malik Fofana, one of them, who I would imagine will turn up in the Premier League at some point. He was brilliant against Rangers for Lyon a couple of weeks ago. And in the Europa League. You know, there's a lot of quality in there. We're seeing more of Lois Openda, who has never quite managed to play with Romelu Lukaku, so maybe they're playing separately rather than together. You know, there is valuable stuff to work on for these international coaches. I guess they just have to convince the players of the value of it and the clubs.
And we mentioned the Germany versus Netherlands. They had a very entertaining draw the first time they met a little while ago. So this should be it could be a good game.
Yeah, it could be. I went to that game last month in Amsterdam, and it was really the sort of international breaks at the moment in microcosm, because there were bits of that game that were really exciting, and there were bits of that game where the crowd and the players were not into it at all. So it sort of fluctuated between high drama and almost boredom, really. It was a very strange evening. Now you've got the reverse of that. Of course, it's one of the most anticipated fixtures in European football. No Virgil van Dijk, because he got sent off rather daftly, actually, away at Hungary a couple of days ago. And you had Germany winning in Bosnia with Deniz Undav, formerly of Brighton, making a start, scoring a couple of goals. He looks a natural goal scorer. He already did last season for Stuttgart. And, you know, Brighton made a good amount of money from him, but he's doing great. Scored against Real Madrid in the Champions League already this season. And so him and another debutant, Tim Kleindienst, leaving the line, they're sort of moving on from where they were in the summer already. Of course, no Manuel Neuer, no Thomas Müller. And so they're getting a little bit younger as well.
Tuchel for England. There's these odds on in the Paddy Power betting and with a few other bookmakers. I mean, what do you think the chances are on that? What's the word? Has there been a word in Germany about this?
Well, look, people are excited about it. I mean, personally, I love him as a coach. I think he's a terrible choice for England manager because the way he relates, the way he manages up or doesn't manage up, and the way he relates to the media, which is prickly sometimes, deluded at others. I just think there's just too many bear traps for him to walk straight into, really. It's nothing to do with what he is as a coach. As a coach, he's pretty much as good as it gets, but there's a reason that he gets through jobs at a rate of knots. But of course, everyone's got it really fresh in the mind what happened at Bayern. You know, he was there for touch over a year. They could have sacked him on 4 or 5 separate occasions during that, and not totally because of what Bayern were doing or not doing on the pitch, because I think a lot of the problems were inherited problems. But it seems a really strange choice to me when you look at it. And we were talking about it before, weren't we, with Kylian Mbappe? When you've got a leadership role in international football, it's not just about what you can do on the field or what you can do on the training pitch. It's an ambassadorial role if you're in that leadership sort of level to a certain extent. And he's not particularly good at that. And he's shown that on occasions.
No. There's a lot you mentioned there about playing too many games, and the players' associations and the PFA
are making an official complaint today.
Do you ever envisage a situation, Andy, where they'll say to a bloke like Mbappe, that's it, you can only play 60 games a year or 55 games a year or something like that, because they've got to do something and they're doing
that in rugby union, aren't they?
You wonder if it's ever going to happen in football.
Yeah, and I think you look at where Chelsea are actually at the moment, and of course they've ended up almost by accident in a European competition that wasn't designed for them at all. It was designed for smaller clubs. You know, Chelsea are the opposite of the sort of club that should be in it, really, sporting results notwithstanding, and how they've sort of structured a different squad. It's almost the first time that Chelsea's squad building has sort of made sense. Now, maybe we're getting a bit more of a taste of the future there, certainly in the club game. You know, maybe you're attacking different competitions with different squads of players, and that happens. But, you know, we've seen this in the NBA, the fact that it is important to acknowledge physical and mental well-being. On the other hand, there's also an understanding that it's a product. And, you know, if you're an NBA team and you want to leave out one of your big players for a nationally televised fixture, you have to have a really good reason for it. You know, you have to have a doctor's note. You have to prove that they're genuinely injured. You can't just leave players out because it's rotation. So you've always got this balance between getting the commercial product out there and making sure it's still actually worth watching.
Andy, we've run out of time, but good to talk to you as always. We'll catch up with you next week when the domestic stuff returns, and you'll be with Danny on Sunday night on Trans Europe Express, won't you?
Yeah, we will. Back to 9 p.m. next week.
It's a podcast as well. Go and check it out. It's excellent. If you can't listen on a Sunday night, it's a great listen, and it's a good Monday morning listen if you want to keep in touch with everything that's been going on around Europe. So that's Danny Kelly and Andy Brassell and the team bringing you the Trans Europe Express podcast, and that'll be I take it the latest one from last night's out already.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.